Hello everyone, welcome back to League of Legends DFS Esports Breakdown for July the 28th. Pretty intriguing 4-gamer here, so we will get into the recap as we do. Early video, so that's exciting, and again, probably going to try to keep this one relatively short, but every time I say that, it is never short. So we'll quickly kind of recap the games that went down last night. So LGD got the 2-1 over WE, and then OMG got the 2-0 over AL. Again, second series in a row where WE actually ended up outscoring the team they lost to. Weird situation. I don't know what how that broke down, but it is what it is. Game 3 was actually definitely winnable for WE, but LGD ended up bringing it back in the second half of a really long game 3. Pretty close one, but we were on the right side of it. And then obviously the 2-0 from OMG over AL. We did end up slightly leaning towards the OMG side, as bad as it did feel. We were on the right side of it. They just did not end up scoring enough for the DK slate. Game 1 was pretty good. Game 2 was pretty bad. It was a come from behind victory in Game 2, so their scoring was definitely pretty limited. I do think obviously it is looking like the blue side is very pronounced still a little. I mean, it was 4 out of 5, and then you could definitely argue in this fifth game AL were definitely in the driver's seat for most of it. And I definitely think they could have definitely come away with the Game 2 win from the AL side, but OMG ended up bringing it back. But I think, just with how the series was looking, Game 3 would have gone the OMG side. So blue side, although we did, show a little bit less pronounced, at the start here of the week 8, it's still definitely looking, pretty strong. So we'll keep that in mind as we go forward. Actually was a pretty, relatively interesting day over in the LCK. Hanwha ended up bringing back or getting the game 1 victory, and KT ended up getting the game 2 victory, and both these series ended up being pretty close despite the odds being drastically one-sided. LCK just seemingly extremely random at the moment. I don't know. I did honestly in hindsight think that T1 series maybe could have been a little bit close. Just KT's been looking pretty decent. T1 has been, as shaky as always. I definitely did not see the Hanwha picking up the game versus Dom1 though, for sure. Although that was just it seemed like a very interesting one game thing where Dudu just got extremely fed on the Gwen and 1v9 pretty much. Pretty interesting stuff, but I don't know. The LCK just feels really weird at the moment. Although we do have some interesting games coming up, so we'll start over in the LPL, as we typically do. Sorry, I had this on the wrong monitor here. Stats are backwards, but they're still the same. Whatever. Ultra Prime versus IG, expected kill totals around 26 total, so pretty good game to go ahead and get started with. Ultra Prime, I believe, are the favorites here versus Invictus Gaming. Last time out we saw, I closed the LPL one here, but yeah, I mean, last time we saw we saw IG. They were playing against WE. They kind of barely, came from behind and won. I think in a similar fashion to how LGD did. So we've seen just a wild series of events from IG. They are 2-9 now, so still looking, on that bottom tier of the league. I definitely think they could have lost to WE as well. I think both of these WE series have been, go about the same same results. Even they just do not go that way. I don't know. I just have a really tough time grasping where IG is at the moment. I do like some of their players and some of the things that they've been doing. I do think they are looking a little bit better with this on and Wink bottom lane. The concern is just it just feels really bad right now. I think they should be playing Uakai. I do think he brought a little bit more than what Mo has. He did have a pretty strong pop-off game in their last series, but although it was against WE, so I don't know how much stock you could really put into that. Um, he just does not look good outside of that one pop-off game. I do think I remember a quote from one of the casters in the game say, it's finally the year of the mole. We've only been waiting for it for 3 years now. Um, it was just not. He just has not been playing well for a while. Um, I don't know. This one is just pretty weird. The big difference here is I feel like Ultra Prime are better in every position except for AD for jungler. I mean, Shun, I do think he is pretty stuck in this team at the moment. He's looking like a very, very strong, maybe top 5, top 7-ish jungler in the league, despite being on the probably second or maybe bottom or bottom 3, bottom 2 team here on IG. So that's the thing here. I'm gonna be intrigued to see these odds. I do expect Ultra Prime to be a relatively decently sized favorite, like a minus 150 or so. I don't know. I just have a slight kind of feeling here that although IG have not been playing well, I do think they've shown some things. Again, their last game against WE, although they barely won, I do think they had a come from behind game 3 victory, which was pretty uninspiring as well. I'm trying to get to the scoreboard to jog my memory here. How long ago was that? Was it week 8? This was WEL. This is today. Guess it would have been easier to go to the match history and looked at this WEIG. They looked pretty strong in game 1, and they brought in Kadaya, and it definitely changed things up. They had this game 1 was actually pretty clean. They brought in Kadaya and obviously got a 31 kill blowout defeat in game 2. As strong as Wink looked in game 1, it definitely feel like it was definitely heavily dictated by the rest of the team doing well. They obviously got on very, very far ahead over on the Draven, but when Wink got put over into these other champions, he just does not look comfortable, and it's very apparent that he is a player who was playing AD carry just like a month and a half ago, and I don't know what sprung this position change here, but obviously we could look in his match history. He's playing AD carry, all of a sudden he just starts playing support. And he didn't. It's not like he had a lot of time to change it up. He was playing series 618, 622, 626, and then he turns around 630, and he's a support player. In a 4-day span, he's changing roles. He even went back a series to the AD carry position here on the 5th, and then now he's back to the support on the 10th, 14th, 18th, etc. So I don't know. As decent as he has looked on some of these picks, his champion pool is definitely just not there. He's definitely just not as good. He is clearly somebody who doesn't play this role as well as everyone else. On's been looking relatively decent. Obviously, Shun has as much as I just touted him, he's been playing pretty well. Zika's been kind of off and on. He just seems like somewhat of a safe level player. He doesn't make big mistakes, but he also doesn't do much either. And obviously we just got done talking about Mole. I do think he's been kind of up and down. I do respect that they're kind of running it back with the same roster. I do think Ultra Prime, we'll check the odds. Ultra Prime minus 165, that is about what I expected. I'm going to run it back here with the IG side again. I think more so this is just a little bit more of an Ultra Prime fade than it is an IG pick. Obviously we pull up the numbers here, and we pull it up. We pull all the stuff up. IG's combined kills per minute is at a 0.9, one of the highest in the league. We're expecting very, very high action here. Again, looking at about a 26 kill total on average. From their recent sample size, IG are pretty exciting for that factor, and I think the big difference here is going to be similar or is going to be a talking point, I think it might be ownership here. For some reason, Ultra Prime, I think, is a team that's pretty over-owned most of the time. I do think when we look at players like Elk and Zoom, people kind of, I don't want to say people tout them, but they just kind of get a lot of steam for some reason. Obviously, I do think there's a little bit of like a meme maybe factor going in with Zoom. I do think Elk gets a lot of hype maybe because his numbers are usually pretty strong. It's combined with some of his recent or his history of being a very strong AD carry coming over from Weibo. I believe it was Suning at the time before Huan Fong came in. It was what was his old name? Elk name changed from something, and he played for Weibo. What was his previous username? Xiaomong. He was on WE, yeah, and he was good on this WE team. This WE team was good. It was Breathe, Beishong, Shanks, Xiaoming, and Missing. That's what it was. Not Weibo, but this is the team that what it was. This was a good WE team, I should add. They actually did pretty well. Obviously, looking at they had an 11-5 split. They finished sixth in the LPL spring. They had they were winning games here. Breathe, Beishong, Shoal, or Mole, sorry, Shanks, Elk, Stay Missing. This is a pretty interesting roster looking back at it, but obviously we see him now swapping over to the Ultra Prime side. And again, it's just like inconsistencies here with Hacker, Elk, Xiaoxi, Zoom. I think they sometimes get a little bit overrated. I do expect people to go to the Ultra Prime side. I do think they will get some steam, but I'm willing to run it back with this IG side here. The concern obviously here is going to be the blue side red side splits as we typically look. Ultra Prime will be all over on the blue side. If we do look at how we're going here, they're actually not that great really on either. Obviously, Ultra Prime 0-4 blue side. The last couple of patches, red side Ultra Prime 2-5. So even then, that's not that great. I mean, they have had very tough matchups, I should add. The only games that they've won are against LGD. Obviously, they're getting a very easy matchup here versus IG as well. So, you do with that what you will. But, these numbers may be a little bit touchy because, from who they've played. We can maybe open up the stats here a little bit, maybe expand it over here to 3-15 or to the another patch previous, and even then their blue side is 1-6, their red side is 2-9, so it's not like they really have been great on either side. They've just been losing wholeheartedly. IG 3-6 on red side, 3-6 on blue side, so not too pronounced really on either side, I think, from these teams. Obviously there is some concern that blue side is just the outright better side, but with these teams the numbers are not too pronounced. I just am going with the IG side. I do think Shun versus Hacker is a pretty big mismatch. And I do think that the IG players are close enough in skill and the rest of the positions to do enough, and that's really what it comes down to here. I think Shun is that much better than Hacker that I think it can wipe out enough of the other lane problems from IG. And I think their aggression and overall team fightiness has not been that bad. We just need a decent performance from Wink, and we just need him to not make too many mistakes. And I think we can be in a good enough position here with IG. And obviously, I love Shun, really is what it comes down to. BLG FPX, this is a pretty intriguing one. BLG are running it back with their old roster of Bin, Weiwei, Icon, Doggo's coming back, and then we have Crisp as well. I really am unsure what to make of this. They were looking pretty good, I think, when they had Can. I don't think Rise ended up panning out that well. He was not playing that great as of late. I wish they kept Can. I do think he was starting to look pretty good. I'm obviously not that high on Weiwei. I'm pretty big on Doggo. Obviously, you guys know that been for a while, a few months maybe. I've been kind of hyping up Doggo, and although their performances and stuff have not stacked up as of late, I do think he is a better option from Rise. As much as I do love that BLG Academy roster, Rise did not pan out that well, so we do get the full roster back with BLG again here. I'm honestly a little surprised with how odds the close are. Yeah, how close the odds are here. For me, I do think FPX is a good bit better than BLG. We do have BLG over on the blue side, and they are pretty decent on the blue side. They are 5-3 on it. FPX 5-3 on blue. Red side, obviously FPX 3-3, not that bad. But BLG pretty bad over on the red side, 2-5. So overall, definitely better for the blue side from BLG. As it is with everyone. That's how it goes at the moment. But with this one, I honestly am just surprised. Obviously we saw BLG kind of crumbling with this roster beforehand. They were swapping in players in and out. I don't know if they've done enough. Like if these players have rekindled or reignited some level of form that they had before. I don't know what's going on. Obviously, this is going to be a pretty interesting one to keep your eye out on. But I am just going to have to go with the FPX side. I do think, obviously, they've been playing a lot better as of late, obviously, since they brought Summit in, although he is a little bit of a NAR one trick at the moment. I think they've just been playing a little bit better. I think Care versus Icon is going to be pretty one-sided towards the FPX side with Care. Although I do like the BLG bottom lane still. I do like Crisp. He's been a solid performer throughout the entire time. Obviously, LWX and Hong are decent enough. I do think it's not great either side in the bottom lane matchup. I think Clit is better than Weiwei, but that's more so of a Weiwei problem than anything else. Bin versus Summit is going to be pretty interesting. Could be pretty volatile of a top lane matchup, and I do think the mid lane is going heavy in the FPX favor. So I am going to be riding with the FPX side here. I'm honestly a little bit surprised at how close the odds are. I do think FPX should be a little bit bigger of a favorite here. I do understand some of the concern of them. They've not been playing that well as of late. They kind of cooled off a little bit after their very hot 3 or 4 game run here. They had that upset win over JDG. Then they beat LGD, LNG. They had that run going, and then they lost to FPX. Bounced back, beat AL, lost to TT. So they have not been having the greatest performances as of late. That there is concern there, and obviously we did start seeing some improvements from the BLG side. They won a couple series. They beat LGD and RA. They took a game off of JDG, although we know how that goes with JDG. Things have not been great for BLG, but they are going back to the old roster. I do think the old roster looked pretty lifeless beforehand, so I just do not know what the positives here really could be with BLG. Maybe it's the fact that they have the that the individual players are not that bad. There definitely is a case where they were at their rock bottom beforehand and they could only get better, and that would make this a pretty close series. But I'm not going to buy into it, I think, until I see something from BLG. Just because I feel like the last few times we've seen this BLG roster rolled out, they did not look good, and I don't think them just taking some time off, rotating players in and out, Doggo spending some time in Academy, Weiwei spending some... I don't know if Weiwei even played in Academy. I don't think he did. I guess he must have. It must have been Weiwei and Doggo down in Academy, unless Doggo just... unless Weiwei just... Nope. It looks like he did not. Yeah, Doggo was down in Academy playing. It looks like Weiwei was just riding the bench, so he didn't even get playing time back down there. So I don't know where he could have rekindled his format. I just don't know The concoction of Spiel GT makes very little sense. I think Care is much better mid laner than Icon. Obviously, we know how well FPX have been playing relatively lately. Again, I don't think they've been playing that great. Like super recently, like the past couple of weeks or so. But I think overall they're just a good bit better team. I'm honestly just surprised that the odds are this close. I like FPX to get the series done here as well. The average kills we're looking at is about 25.4, so pretty decent. Definitely very much in the same category as the Ultra Prime IG series, which is at 26. So two series you want to keep an eye on for sure, and I definitely do like the IG and FPX pairing up of players, and building that way as well. But over in the LCK, we do actually have a couple of interesting series here. Ones that you can keep an eye on. Live Sandbox versus Nongshim. We are at a 24.3 total here. And then over in Genji DRX, we have a 22.51. Genji DRX, although these numbers are pretty decent, we've definitely seen a couple outlier games from both of these sides. Obviously, DRX's game time is pretty insane at over 34. We'll look at their stuff lately, but I don't know. I hate doing this. I hate spending a lot of time on the LPL and kind of skipping over the LCK, but I really don't know if there's that much to talk about here. We'll touch on it here just so we're not completely skipping it like we did yesterday. I do kind of regret skipping the LCK entirely yesterday. I feel comfortable skipping Genji DRX. I do feel a little bit better saying, this probably should be a pretty competent Genji. Maybe they sweep, maybe they drop a game to DRX. Like, I don't think DRX are pushovers by any means, but I think Genji are the best team in the league. I'm pretty excited for Genji versus T1. I do think Genji are going to, kind of have their way with T1 on that one. So if that's going to be a pretty exciting one, I do think Genji will be able to take that series versus T1. T1 have been pretty shaky as of late. But, that's on another note. I just think Genji they've been 2-0ing everyone so far. Obviously, DRX is a little bit of a step up from these other teams that they've been sweeping up. However, I just think DRX play pretty slow. I'm not too impressed with them. And overall, Genji's co-participation and everything is pretty low. Their numbers obviously are the worst on the slate. Obviously, I think they're still playable at a 22.5 total. Average, but they're pretty expensive here on the DK side, so you're not even getting that much of a discount. Specifically, when we're looking at Chovy and Ruler, Peanuts even up there at 6.8, Lehens is at 5.4, Doran at 6K. So it's not even like they're that cheap on DK. That's just going to be a complete pass for me on the Genji side. From the players, at least, maybe you can. Sorry. Maybe you can make a case to get to that Genji team slot, but again, you're not being as slick anymore with it. People are definitely caught up to the one-offing of the LCK team slot. I do think that is the best spot for it. Obviously, we do see that DRX's average game time is 34 minutes, so we could definitely see a little bit of a longer one from the Genji side, racking up a couple more dragons, maybe a double Baron. And their team slot scores decently, so definitely a spot to keep an eye on. And then the other LCK game is Live Sandbox versus Nongshim. I definitely think this is one you could definitely have a good bit of from the Sandbox side. So obviously we saw them last time out get the 2-0 over KDF. They lost to Genji, but they 2-0'd Hanwha and then had another loss to Genji. So outside of them losing to Genji twice, we've seen some pretty strong performances from them. They've obviously lost to Dom1, they lost to T1, and lost to Genji twice. So Live Sandbox is clearly the fourth best team in the league at the moment. I think there's definitely going to be an interesting one coming up of Live Sandbox versus Dom1. I do think that one could be pretty close. Dom1 have been a little bit shaky in their own right as well. But again, for another time. Obviously, Nongshim have been pretty fiesta-y as of late. I do think some of these Nongshim games have been pretty crazy. Obviously, we've seen some wild up and down things happening from them. They could definitely make this series pretty close, but I think the past 2 or 3 series maybe from Nongshim. They've been giving up a good bit of deaths, and obviously we know Live Sandbox is one of the few teams in the LCK that is willing to throw down pretty heavily. So I do like locking and loading a good bit of Live Sandbox here. They will be pretty much on the same tier as the other games for me. I could definitely see LSB getting this 2-0 sweep. I could definitely see the other 2 LPL games being 3 gamers. So there's definitely a scenario where we see those scores get kind of tamed a little bit because of the 3-game factor. So we could definitely see some of the scores from the Live Sandbox side do pretty well. Obviously, we know they play pretty heavily through that bottom lane, through Prince, through Kyle, through typically through Croco. We usually don't see great numbers from Dove or Closer, but we'll talk about the players at the end as we do. But I do think obviously we know Live Sandbox is one of the, if not maybe the only super aggressive team in the LCK, and we know Nongshim's Fiesta games have been happening all over the shop as of late. So we'll look at I want to show you guys the scores because I do think they've been pretty crazy in terms of what Nongshim has been giving up as of late. So it was the Genji, Damwon, and then I think this KT series here. So KT had a 19 and a 15 kill victory, but I mean, this was an insane performance from aiming. 10-0-9, pretty crazy. We could definitely see something similar. 100% kill participation from aiming, life. Very high from Vikla and Rascal as well. Obviously a very, very strong performance in this third one as well. Over in this one, Damwon, obviously this is not quite to the same level. A 10 and a 16. This is not the greatest, but I don't know. This is just like a Damwon game. These things happen. And I think this Genji one was more so what I was talking about as well. A 22 kill game here in game 2, and then a decent enough 14 kill here. Obviously would have loved to have a lot more. And I just think, Nongshim has been giving up a decent enough level. I do think LSB are the best team at creating opportunities, and obviously we've seen enough from these past few games from Nongshim that they are willing to give it up as well. So I think that combo of LSB being super active, Nongshim being able to give it up, and then I think the sweep potential being pretty high here as well. I just think all those things add up and make for a pretty good storm, for a pretty good Live Sandbox spot here. I do expect them to be pretty popular, maybe the most popular team on the slate. I'm not sure. Their gigantic price tag along with their decent score upside could make them pretty popular. I'm unsure, but I'd definitely be fine to go with them, and I definitely like mixing and matching them in my lineups as well. So that's something to keep in mind. So we'll look at the players and stuff as we get out of here. So I'm going to set the patches to 12.12 and 12.13. We'll look at the teams of LSB, FPX, and IG. This is going to be what my player pool will be, so you guys can feel free to change as you want, or whatever. I do always leave the link in the description for how I run this kind of look ahead. So obviously, first glance, I like to look at groupings. I see the IG group of being relatively decent up top here. Obviously, no Uakai playing, but Shun and Mo both over 77% kill participation. On and Wink are both pretty decent up there as well. So that group of that 4-man stack of IG looking pretty good. FPX is looking pretty good here with Clid, Hung, LWX, Care. But I mean, you could definitely make a decent case for Summit at 57%. Obviously, all 3 top laners are kind of about the same, but Summit's numbers are quite a little bit better, just given that his kill share is a little bit better, his kill participation is a little bit better. So he theoretically would be the top laner to look at, but you could definitely go any way that you want here. Overall, the Live Sandbox grouping is not that great, but again, I do think it's fine. Like, obviously, we do see decent enough numbers. Obviously, Closer's numbers are actually relatively decent. He's been playing a little bit better as of late, so he's definitely a player you could try to look and target with as well. I do think he's pretty cheap as well at 7.2, so maybe that's a spot you could get a little bit more interesting with. Go try to get a closer captain in or something like that. I do think if people go to Live Sandbox, it'll definitely be Prince heavy. So that's your options. I do think you could try and get it unique and try to get interesting here and try to look at something like a care captain, a closer captain, and maybe if you want to get really crazy, a Shun captain. Shun is insane. We'll look at like, I know this is the worst way you can do it, but if we do look at like fantasy points per game, obviously we'll see some consistent like things of 80 carries and mid laners being here. Obviously Summit's been winning a lot lately, so his numbers are a little bit inflated, but we could look and see here like Shun's numbers are pretty insane for when they win. Like he had a 60-point kill here, or 60-point game win here. That's an anomaly, it feels like, with how that series went. But just sometimes when we see like an 109.20 over FPX, like his upside is insane. Obviously, that's like one of the only series that they've won as of late. They've won 2 series here, I guess, at least in the DK match history. But 100 points, like a 76-point loss here. Like Shun is one of the few non-carries that are, that's considered an 80 carry or a mid laner. Shun is one of the only people who has that similar level of upside. Obviously, when you look at the kill shares, it's on 80 carry, Prince 80 carry, closer mid, LWX 80 carry, Shun jungler, Summit top laner, care mid laner. Like Shun is clearly a standout here. When it comes to winning, so that's a super unique way you could get. Again, I don't know if you necessarily need to. It probably won't feel the best putting an underdog jungle captain up like that, but I think that's a way you can get unique. And obviously, Klid's numbers are pretty good. I wouldn't mind pairing him up there, or if you did want to get to a Live Sandbox and try to get like a Croco in there as well. So there's definitely ways to get unique. I don't think you have to, be kind of a forced to go with like an 80 carry captain here. Obviously, On's numbers have been pretty good. Prince's numbers have been pretty good. LWX's numbers are serviceable as well. You could definitely go standard, get your 80 carry captains in with the IG underdog, pairing him up with the FPX favorite and the Live Sandbox favorite. That's probably the approach I'm going to be taking here. As well, and I might try to avoid the Genji team slot. That's where people go a lot. People are just spending up to the highest team slot you can get. Obviously, we know the Live Sandbox, we know the Nongshim Fiesta there as well, so we know the team slot upside in that series is pretty high as well. I'd be fine getting up to either of these LCK team slots. I would probably prefer the Live Sandbox team slot just because, $200 cheaper. You can't laugh at that. But their 2-0s have been 66, 62, 69, 66. Even this 2-1 is a 62. Like, when they win pretty well for their team slot. When we look at the Genji, like 56, 59, 52, 64, 69. So they've had a couple games, but 2 out of these 5 have not been the best. So I'd prefer the LSB side. I do think people just spend up to the highest team slot they can get. And I'll just take this Live Sandbox one. I think at a smaller ownership, I'll take the $200 salary savings as well. So that'll be where I'll be heading. I'll be mixing and matching these teams kind of evenly. I'm not sure exactly how I'll distribute them. I do think LSB might be pretty heavily owned. It would make a lot of sense for them to be heavily owned. So I might have an update tweet on that out of how much LSB I'll get. But again, I typically kind of just run 3 lineups. So I might just make one lineup with each of these as a primary stack and have each of them as a secondary stack. So I'll just have them all like 1-1-1'd out. So I'll have a primary stack of each of these teams and just mix and match them that way. So I think that'll be how I'll be approaching this one. I'd like the spot for all 3 of these teams. It's going to be pretty hard to guess where all the fantasy points will be going. Does not feel great to have double red side teams over in the LPL, but at the end of the day, I can't be a slave too much to the blue side selections. Definitely does worry me a little bit, especially in the in the Ultra Prime IG series. IG have not inspired too much as of late, but I'm just kind of fading Ultra Prime. I feel like they're going to be loved, and I don't know if I'll be on board with it. So that'll be it for me today. I will see you guys all again tomorrow, I believe, for another similar style video. So best luck to you guys all tonight, and I will see you guys then. Thank you guys for tuning in.